Shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I'm going to start off this lesson by giving all praises and honor and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakah Kadash, double honors to the apostles, bishops, and elders of Great Millstone who rule well and have taught me this word in truth and sincerity. Peace and mercy to the whole full elect, starting with the 144,000 and the innumerable multitude that sincerely believe upon the names of Yahweh and his only begotten Son, Yahweh Shai. It's your brother Amath, all right, from GMS Toronto. Coming at you with another lesson, not a live lesson. I do so many live lessons, I was going to say this is a live lesson. But this is more of a solo lesson, and I've been wanting to do some lessons based upon the book of Sirach. And just been waiting on the Spirit to really get on me to do it in a sense where it would work out for me. So, Lord willing, Yahweh the Spirit stays on me to continue doing some of these solo lessons concerning on Sirach. Because that whole book, in my opinion, that book is a book that really teaches you a lot about daily living, all right? Basically, your day-to-day. Slack it, bear with me one moment here. Yeah, but your day-to-day, and how to deal with people, your finances, work, your health, friendships, the brotherhood, obviously spiritually as well, dealing with the truth and everything else. Your whole livelihood in all its aspects. So, yeah, Lord, may Yahweh Shai keep the Spirit on me to continue on doing these lessons, these solo lessons. But so I don't know what I'm going to entitle this exactly yet, but I'm just going to read from Sirach chapter 6, right, verses 1 to 6. And and then, Lord willing, this is straightforward, edifying to the full elect. So it says here, I'm going to go back and forth between the GNT and the King James. So Sirach chapter 6, verse 1. Instead of a friend, become not an enemy, for thereby thou shalt inherit an ill name, shame, and reproach. Even so shall a sinner that hath a double tongue. Verse 2. Extol not thyself in the counsel of thy own heart, that thy soul be not torn in pieces as a bull string alone. So let's go to the GNT. It says, verse 1, and do not be an enemy when you should be a friend, right? And that word friend also breaks down into the word brother, if I'm not mistaken. Let's get that in etymology real quick. One attached to another by feelings, personal regard. Pretty sure it's actually in the Hebrew where it says that the friend is also a brother. Yeah, that's it's in the Hebrew. It's not here in the etymology, but yeah. Maybe I'll look it up. I don't have too much time, so I want to get into all that. Those of you at home that are watching, go look up the word friend in the Hebrew, like in the King James, and you can see it for yourself. It should, one of the definitions there should say brother. But so I'll read this again. It says, and do not be an enemy when you should be a friend. A bad reputation brings you the disgrace that lying sinners deserve. Okay? And one thing that I'm learning a lot in this ministry, right, in this truth, is your reputation is everything. It really precedes you, whether it's a bad reputation or a good reputation. Once you have an ill name, or once you have a stain to your name, It's hard to really get by. It's hard to receive any favors, right? And you're always going to be looked at with a negative light on yourself. Okay, and the worst about it is the worst thing to have is a bad reputation in the eyes of the Most High Yahweh and His Son Yahweh Shai. Okay, and that's personal between you and Him, or you and them. Okay, right? And it's, of course, it's horrible to have that among the brotherhood as well. If you're a brother that has, hey, I think about it quite often. I think about my reputation among the brotherhood, and and I check myself. What kind of reputation do I have? And we all got to do that, because most likely the reputation you have among the brotherhood, as Yahweh Shai is in the midst, is going to be the reputation that you have among Yahweh Shai, Yahweh Bashi. And slack it, let me slow down. And if the reputation that you have among Yahweh Shai, that same reputation is the one that you'll have among the Father and Him and Yahweh Shai. Okay, whether it's good or bad. So if you don't have the best reputation, guess what? We're still in the grace period, so you still have time to clean it up. You see, you can always get a good reputation. It's not easy to build a good reputation once you've stained it, right? Once you've stained your reputation, and it's very easy to do that, it's hard, okay, to build it back up, but it is possible. All right, so it says, verse 2, do not let your passion carry you away. This can tear your soul to pieces like a bull. All right, so first and foremost, let me get a precept. I'm going to get something from chat here. So I'm going to go to Proverbs 18. Oh, I got to take off airplane mode. Slacker. All right, so Proverbs 18, and let me put myself on sleep. So Proverbs 18 and 21. Okay, in the King James it says, death and life are in the power of the tongue, and they that love it, right, going to your passions, shall eat the fruit thereof. You see, whether that's good or evil. So you can either speak life out of your mouth, or you can speak death out of your mouth. And, you can speak life to yourself and life to others, which is by the way of teaching this word, this truth, and speaking the truth, all right? Or you can speak death, which is lies, okay, to others and to yourself. You got to be honest with yourself just as much as you got to be as honest with others, right? NLT, it says, the tongue can bring death or life. Those who love to talk will reap the consequences, right? Let me read verse 20, right? King James says, a man's belly shall be satisfied with the fruit of his mouth. And that belly is really going to your mind, right? So a man's mind shall be satisfied with the fruit of his mouth, and with the increase of his lips shall he be filled, right? So you can either speak life to yourself or death to yourself. You can either speak life to another brother or death to another brother. So watch how you speak to yourself, okay? And watch how you speak to other brothers, man. Those are Yahweh Shai's flock. Yahweh Bashim Shai's sheep, man. Be very, very careful of your words. Doesn't mean, you lie, okay? Obviously. But sometimes there's hard conversations that you have to have, but you have them, all right, with what's the word I'm looking for? With a sincere tone, rather. Your tone speaks volumes, right? You can tell a man's intent by the tone of his voice. Okay? So if you're having a hard conversation with a brother, whether it be a younger brother or even an older brother than you, it tells you in the scripture, if you're talking to an elder, and treat him like a father. So don't be rude, Okay, just speak the truth with humility. That's the perfect word, with humility. And if you're an older brother speaking to a younger brother, all right, again, don't chew the brother out in the sense of, like you want to see that brother do better. That's what you want to keep in your mind. You want to see him do better, and you want him to know that that's your intent as well. Okay, you don't want to just chase, rebuke a brother without having the intent of building him back up. Okay, so it says in NLT, wise words satisfy like a good meal, right? The right words bring satisfaction. You see? So there is a such thing as the right words when you're talking to a brother and when you're talking to yourself. Okay? You can't talk evil towards yourself, man. Yeah, be honest. Acknowledge the truth. But don't go further than what the truth is. There's such a thing of going too far. Okay? So, let's go to chat. I was asking chat a little bit of insight. Right, so for verses 2 to 3, it says, as it repeats the verse, extol not thyself in the counsel of thy own heart, that thy soul be not torn in pieces as a bull straying alone. Verse 3, thou shalt eat up thy leaves, and lose thy fruit, and leave thyself as a dry tree. Right, so it says here, extol. Verse 2, pride in your own judgment. Extol not thyself in the counsel of thine own heart. Don't be overly impressed with your own opinions, plans, or reasoning. Why? Because ultimately they come from Yahweh B'Shem Yahweh Shai. Right? And if they're, all comes from Yahweh B'Shem Yahweh Shai, whether it's good or evil. But, yeah, let me just read on. So it says, warning image. A bull straying alone. Bulls are strong. Warning image. A bull straying alone. Bulls are strong, but when isolated, they're more vulnerable to predators or traps. In the same way, self-willed isolation from wise counsel, right, can destroy you from the inside out. You see? And this is twofold. If brothers are encouraging you and all you do is talk down to yourself, guess what? You're isolating yourself. And in a sense, that's self-willed. And vice versa. If brothers are counseling you to be humble, to be more humble, and you're always extolling your own counsel in your own heart, guess what? You're also isolating yourself through pride. Okay? So you can isolate yourself internally through pride from the brotherhood. You can isolate yourself internally through that woe is me spirit. Too much negative self-talk. Okay? Brothers don't want to be around negative self-talk. A brother that talks negatively to himself, you can feel it, especially when he does it too much. Don't get me wrong, we got to curse ourselves out, but don't go further than the truth. Okay? Do not go further than the truth. All right? We're all catching hell. Okay? And the last thing we need to do is, when we come around each other, to lift each other up in the spirit of Yahweh B'Shem Yahweh Shai, is to bring each other down, because one brother just doesn't have enough faith to rely on the counsel of upliftment, okay, of encouragement, right, of faith. Okay, that's distasteful. All right, so it says principle. Self-reliance without humility or accountability leads to blind spots and eventual downfall. You see? In verse 3, it says, withering through self-exaltation, eat up thy leaves. Like an unhealthy tree consuming itself, pride devours your own vitality. Yep. And so there's negative self-talk. Both do the exact same thing. Okay, if you want to think of an illustration, the best one that comes to mind, pride is like a consuming fire. Eventually, anything in it will be consumed, okay, and burnt up. That's right. That's like the pride in your heart, in your mind. Or you can drown in self pity, right? You can drown in self pity in the water. You could die either way, okay. So there's a balance, and it's hard. Hey, and this is why the brotherhood is a gift, all right, a beautiful gift, because oftentimes you find that balance through counsel, because brothers have different mindsets and different spirits that Yahweh Bashim Yashai has given them to balance out each other, to balance you out. Okay? So it says, I'll read it again. Eat up thy leaves like an unhealthy tree consuming itself. Pride devours your own vitality. Lose thy fruit. Good works, influence, and relationships. Good works, influence, and relationships will dry up. Right? Leave thyself as a dry tree, spiritually barren, with nothing left to give. All right, principle. Pride robs you of spiritual life and leaves you useless for Yahweh's purpose. That's right. Most High has no use for a prideful man in righteousness. He has many uses for a prideful man in wickedness. That's for sure. Okay, but in terms of righteousness, it's impossible. Okay, because none is good. Yahweh Shai, the greatest spirit under the Most High, said that himself. Why did thou call me good? For there's only one that's good, and it's my Father in heaven, man. Okay, so pride has no room, all right, in righteous works. Okay, in good works. Thematic insight, it says Sirach is warning that self-conceit leads to self-destruction. You may think you're strong enough to go it alone, right? Lone wolf spirits out there, right? But you end up isolated, unfruitful, and spiritually dead. It's the same warning echoed in Proverbs 11, Jeremiah 17, and John 15. Okay? So let's go back. So, back in Sirach, chapter 6, verse 4 now, in the King James says, a wicked soul shall destroy him that hath it, and shall make him to be laughed to scorn of his enemies. Right? Slacking. I was just reading some. Okay, so let me read that again. Verse 4. A wicked soul shall destroy him that hath it, and shall make him to be laughed to scorn of his enemies. Right? And in the NLT or GNT, it says, evil desire will destroy you and make you a joke to your enemies. Okay, and Pegasus, all right, or Bender the Peganator, you should know who I'm talking about. It's a great example of this verse. Okay, he had evil desires within himself, and now he's the laughingstock of the whole congregation, and not just among Israel. Okay, but even among, especially among Esau, Edom, and the heathens. A lot of you, listen, all you Jakes that sold out, you're nothing but a laughingstock to your own enemies. Okay? You're a laughingstock to your natural enemies, which are the heathens, starting with Esau, Edom on down. And you're a laughingstock to us. All right? The whole full elect. Okay? Because we're enemies to 2/3 of Israel. Shows you how gone 2/3 are, man. You have no place. You don't have a place with your own people. Okay, the righteous of your own people. You have no place for Esau, Edom. So where are you? Stuck in the middle, no man's land. Hey, man, this is why those of us that have this truth, you know, we take care of it with great. We know this truth is precious, man. To be on the right side of this truth is a precious thing, and you know, it calls for humility, extreme humility. All right, because hey, the Lord can you could be righteous today, and the Lord bug you out tomorrow, depending on His will, and of course depending on how you're walking during this grace period in the ministry, man. That's what the scriptures say. Examine thyself whether you be in the faith, man. Okay, scary thing, man. But hey, there's no turning back. This is it. So let me go here. I got a precept for this. Let's go to Job 18 and 16. So it says in the King James, his roots, talking about the wicked, his roots shall be dried up beneath, and above shall his branches be cut off. Right? His remembrance, verse 17, his remembrance shall perish from the earth, and he shall have no name in the streets. Right? Going into that reputation. And obviously this starts with Esau, Edom, once Yahushua takes him out of the way and does away with him, right? He won't be remembered. He'll only be remembered for his wickedness and for being the low-level, weak, base human being that he is, okay? Verse 16, it says in NLT, their roots, right, will dry up, and their branches will wither. And this is also, you can connect this to 2/3 of Israel, within and without the truth, but especially within the truth, because depending on how deep your roots go, roots will eventually wither if they're not soaking up water. Okay, and we know that the water is His truth. The living waters is His truth. All right. The true words of Yahweh Shem Shai. If your foundation isn't in this truth, guess what? Doesn't matter how deep, which means you can even see it like the depths of where the roots, of how far the roots go in the ground, can be how many years you've been in the truth. Right? Someone who's been in the truth for 10, 15, 20, 25 years, they supposedly have deep roots, right? But have their roots been watered all that time that they've been in the truth? Okay, by the words of Yahweh Shem Shai? And if so, then that's beautiful, man. Right? Because that's how you live. That's how you stay alive. But if they haven't, guess what? Eventually you're going to wither up, because you need water for life. Just like Yahweh Shai said, man should not live like by bread alone, but by the words, all right, that come out of this book, roughly paraphrasing. By the words of the Lord, Yahweh Shem Shai. Okay? That's His true water. Yahweh Shai also said, the words that I speak unto you, they are spirit and they are life. Right? John 6 and 63. Okay? So, again, their roots will dry up. And mainly, guess what? When the Lord takes the prophets off the highways and byways and off the internet, and Jacob's trouble, the climax of it starts to hit, then we're going to see whose roots were being watered by the word of the Lord, and who roots weren't. Because the trees that had their roots not watered by the word of the Lord will dry up in Jacob's trouble, man. They will dry up and wither away. Okay? So it says, their roots will dry up, and their branches will wither. All memory of their existence will fade from the earth. No one will remember their names. See? Let me read 18 in NLT. It says, they will be thrust from light into darkness, driven from the world, man. Damn. All right, so let's go back here in Sirach chapter 6, verse 5 to 6. It says, sweet language will multiply friends, and a fair-speaking tongue will increase kind greetings. Be in peace with many, nevertheless, have but one counsel of 1,000. And where we've heard this before is with King Solomon's counsel, right? He had mentioned what he said, but he said of 1,000, I've only found one righteous man. Okay, and of 1,000, he's found 0 righteous women. But the point here is towards the man. So this is being echoed here too, right? So that one, okay, that you would have counsel you of 1,000, all right, spiritually represents the elect, one of the members of the elect, starting with the 144,000. All right, which, hey man, we're in the brotherhood, brothers, men that are in the brotherhood. Some of you are not in camps, all right, that watch our lessons, or that even watch my lessons. You might not be in the camp, but you come to the camp and you witness the brotherhood. You're able to talk to brothers who have their spiritual senses more exercised than you. Take advantage of that. Don't slight it. Don't get comfortable with brothers as well, man. In the sense where, I come to camp, and I see these guys every day. And no, man, it's very special that, listen, it's very special that those of you on the outside looking in, when I mean that, I mean you're not in a camp, right? You come to listen and learn. You're around great men, okay? These men that you're around could very well be those same spirits that were with Yahushua that created everything. I'm talking about the 144. Those are the top men. Don't let that go over your head, okay? And then even more so with us brothers who are in camps, we're around and laboring with. We're in a fellow laboring, all right, within this truth, with men that could very well be those first fruit spirits that labored with Yahushua, man. Okay, and brothers come in all shapes and sizes, and on different levels of experience. Don't ever slight just because you see the elder in the camp. Don't ever slight, asking him questions and really picking his brain and learning. Sometimes you don't have to ask to learn. You can just watch. You can observe. Just because you see the elder, every other day or whatever, every weekend, don't slight that. These are great. We have great men among us. So, hey, man, the brotherhood is a gift. It's a very, 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 very special gift. Okay, so let me read this in the GNT, and then I got one precept and I'll close it out. So Sirach, chapter 6, verse 5, in the GNT says, if you are polite and courteous, you will enjoy friendship of many people. Exchange greetings with many, right? But take advice from only one person out of 1,000. Yeah, straightforward. So let's go to Micah 7, because this is my last precept. Micah 7 and 5. So what does it say? In King James, it says, trust ye not in a friend. Put ye not confidence in a guide. Keep the words of thy mouth from her that lieth in that bosom. NLT says, don't trust anyone, not your best friend or even your wife. Now, let me give my own personal insight on this verse, because I remember when I first came in, I was kind of confused about this verse, because I was like, man, aren't we supposed to trust the brotherhood and and fellow laborers? But as I gained more experience, I gained more insight on this. Typically, at the end of the day, I'll give you an example, okay? You could be with a brother, and it's a righteous brother, but all of us are subject to demons jumping on us. Every single one of us. So just because a demon jumps on a brother doesn't necessarily mean that brother is wicked entirely. He might be wicked at that time at that time, okay? But he's not wicked entirely. So let's say, you put all your trust in a brother and Yahushua to teach you a lesson. I'm speaking from experience. Yahushua to teach you a lesson, puts a demon on that brother for that moment. And now you see that brother in his folly, and now all of a sudden you're kind of bugged out because you put all your trust in that brother instead of putting your trust mainly in Yahushua and his words. Okay? Now, the flip side is if you did put that your trust in the words of Yahweh Bashim El Shai more than the fellow brother, then you could look at the brother and yes, rebuke with in sincerity and truth, right? With all humility that he's going off, and then step back and watch and see if he gets right. And if he gets right, guess what? You can put trust back into that brother. But ultimately, because ultimately you were able to exercise the situation correctly, because ultimately you put trust in the words of Yahweh Bashim El Shai. And that's what the words of Yahweh Bashim El Shai tell you to do. They tell you to examine a brother, right? And if a brother be at fault, right, to rebuke him, right, to entreat him, right, go to him one-on-one. Listen, brother, you know, you mentioned this, and, you know, it's off to say stuff like this, or it's off to do something like that. You should refrain from doing that, or you should refrain from saying that, you know? And then the brother will look at you, he might say, you know what, the water, brother, yeah, you're right, da-da-da-da. He might bring in a precept or whatnot to validate what you're saying. And the next day, the brother stops doing what he's doing. Then you're like, okay, bless. But then if you step back, okay, and you see that brother doesn't change, then you're like, oh, shit. Okay, now the Scopeia is there. Because it's like, well, why aren't you changing? I told you the truth, right? So this is what it means by that. Doesn't mean you walk around the brotherhood, you know, with a scowl. I'm not saying the word right, but with a glare on your, you know, on your face, like, I don't trust you, brothers, man. You know, I'm not gonna put my trust in anyone. No. Again, you're gonna isolate yourself. Okay. Trust in the words of Yahweh Bashim El Shai. You'll know who's who, and you'll know who you are. Ultimately, you can examine yourself that way too. Okay. Because a lot of the times we have demons on us, and we look for excuses, right? The flesh looks for an excuse to fulfill the lust of itself, right? So you might have a weed demon on you, okay? Okay, you might have a weed demon on you, and now you talk to a brother that's older than you, and let's say he does edibles. And now you're like, oh, okay, well, I could do edibles. And then, but when you do them, it's not good for you, right? It's just not good for you. You don't do you don't do righteous things. It's just not good for you. And now you don't stop doing it because you're like, well, that brother does it. Well, guess what? You're putting more trust in that brother than you are in the words of Yahweh Bashim El Shai and in the Holy Spirit. All right, that brother can do what he do, and he's good, or even drinking, right? But some brothers can drink and handle the liquor, and some brothers, it's just not for you, man. It is not for you. And you can't condemn another brother for not drinking, and you can't condemn another brother for drinking. Let every man work out his own salvation, all right? So anyways, I hope that made sense, and hope this lesson was straightforward and edifying to the whole full elected nation of Israel. With that, I'm going to close and give all praises and honor and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakah Kadash. Double honors to the apostles, bishops, and elders of Great Millstone who rule well and have taught me this word in truth and sincerity. Peace and mercy to the whole full elect, starting with the 144,000 and the innumerable multitude that sincerely believe upon the names of Yahweh and his only begotten Son, Yahweh Shai. Baba Ball, Kwama Shalom to the whole full elect.